All right, welcome everybody. It is January. Happy Expiration Friday, and with me this month on After the Close is Peter Johann. Pete, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm well, Mike. How you doing?
Great, great, thanks. New year, new us. That's my attitude this year.
All right.
Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What have you been doing? Just so people know.
All right. Well, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for 20 years. I've taught elementary starting in second grade, then fourth grade for many years. And for about the past 10 to 12 years, it all blurs together. I've been teaching seventh grade ancient world history to seventh graders that don't want to learn about ancient world history.
Ancient
Outside of
world
that,
history to them, like 9/11.
yeah, it's the first. Oh man, this is taking a turn. The first
Let's open with
year that
9/11.
I
Let's
was,
get the crowd going.
yeah, like it was more of like my age. Like I was talking about it because I lived through it, and these kids had no idea. I was like, oh, I'm history now.
Right.
I'm that guy sharing the story. Yeah, what a terrible opener going with that to open out the whole thing.
Well,
Um,
we got to get something going that's going to beat the famous dishwasher story by my
oh yeah,
inaugural
that thing
guest.
was pure garbage. Please don't use that. Geez, I mean, that's a hard thing to top. I feel like that guy who got interviewed was probably second place in his fantasy football league and hates it. Side note,
I think
he
that's a fair
is in
bet.
my
I think that's a fair bet.
yeah, he's in my fantasy league and he hates the fact that he got second place.
Who got first
Um,
place?
but
We're talking about
uh,
Thomas, my inaugural guest on
Tom,
this
yeah,
podcast. Yeah. Uh,
the guy got first place is the guy who wins every year.
uh,
But enough about football is that's all under some guys don't do well. But yeah, outside of teaching, I play in a band. It's a Grateful Dead tribute band. We're called Bloom and Decay, and
nice.
it's really interesting. Just I came from the cover circuit where you're playing top 40 songs and dance songs for weddings, and then I got out of that and got into the Grateful Dead world, and it's a whole nother ball wax. I got a girlfriend. We live together. She's awesome, and we have a dog who is sleeping. You can't see him; he's over the side. Two cats and a bunch of plants, and
You got
yeah,
yourself a whole Noah's Ark there.
it is a menagerie of things that we have to keep alive.
Sure, sure, sure. So now, going back to teaching a little bit, my current project, we'll say, is that I've started substitute teaching since the beginning of the
Nice.
term in my county down here, and so I'll go in and do it, and it is a world changing experience in terms of just worldview, just how the other hand lives, so to speak. I mean, I haven't really been in school since I was a student, so to go back and see some of the attitudes, worldviews of seventh graders, like I've been sticking to that middle school range, doing things, and I look at the attendance sheet when I'm there, and I realize these people were born in like 2011, 2012. It's wild. So like what you've been teaching for a long time now. So I guess like is there anything new for you in the last couple of years that you've noticed about kids these days? Because I can go on and on about those damn kids these days because I only saw them from what I thought
Yeah.
from 25 years ago.
Well, I'm gonna answer that, but I got a question for you. Did you have to get a certification to do that in Jersey?
So well, I'm in North Carolina, so let's
You're North
start.
Carolina. Okay.
Um,
I thought for some reason I thought you lived in Jersey, right? You're
oh
from
yeah,
there.
yeah, we were Jersey
Okay.
born and raised. But we've been down in North Carolina now for about I don't know 2.5 years, something like that.
Okay.
So like
So
after COVID hit,
did
we
you
moved
need a
down.
cert? Did you just need to have like a bachelor's or just a because like there's 24 states that require no credentials. There's 16 that require some kind of certificate. But what does North Carolina
So
got for you?
North Carolina did not require any sort of specific certificates. Um, I have a bachelor's,
Okay.
so when I applied, I clicked yes. I actually don't know off the top of my head the specific law that is involved with it. I can say that there is a drastic shortage of substitutes because I get it. I get emails every day from the there's a third party consulting or I guess you call it a contracting service who will place people who they have. Every day I find out that there's easily 15 spots available. And that's just in my county, you know, because they just have a simple lack of bodies. I'm pretty sure they'll take anyone with a pulse who doesn't have a criminal record, if being honest.
Well, two things. I'll comment to what you're talking about and how teaching has been changing. You're talking about those damn kids. Well, with there is a major teacher shortage in America, and after COVID, we're hitting all the highlights, all the negative things going on. So anyway, after COVID, more teachers were dropping out of teaching, retiring early, quitting the profession than were coming in at a pretty alarming rate. I can't speak for the whole country, but in Pennsylvania, the number of uh, people going into teaching has dropped drastically, like by 300,000 per year, the drop. So 10, 15 years ago, 700,000 kids were going into college to be a teacher. And that used to be Pennsylvania's like biggest export because there wasn't enough jobs for those teachers. So they would travel out, especially North Carolina. But now those numbers have dropped. The kids that pass or stay in, that has dropped. The amount of teachers that have gotten out have dropped. So states are lowering their qualifications for what subs, like 24 states in the US, like you just have to have a GED or a high school diploma to be subbing in the class. What benefit does that have to the kids? So to answer your first question, is a little roundabout way, like what has changed or what uh there's I mean, in every generation, and it's going to make me sound super old, there's always a shift of attitude. Going from the 50s to the 60s, you have a change, not fully, but getting to a change of integrating schools. So you have this change. Then from the late 60s moving forward, you're getting a change of attitude of more independence and getting away from the man is always right kind of idea. And you have all these shifts. So
Never trust
there's a
anyone
shift
over
I'm
30.
seeing, like, because yeah, exactly.
No, no,
But
I
when
get it.
you teaching now is you have when I started, the internet was just getting started. And
Okay.
now it is everywhere. Kids are on their phones all the time, but instead of looking at it like, oh, they're always glued to phones, no, that's just how society is going. What can I do as a teacher to then adapt to that? So COVID, when we all had to teach at home, every teacher had to adapt on the fly. Like learning how to use Zoom, that was a one-day thing for people who aren't involved in having business meetings. Now I'm teaching 20 plus kids while they're sitting on their bed and I'm trying to convey an idea. Obviously, the first couple were rough, but you started getting into a swing of it and how to. So, integrating that into teaching, using that technology piece while trying to balancing the non-technology piece in there. So, there's still hands-on and there's still book research that has value, but then, bring in the technology of exploration.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
that's a big change. I had a one of those projectors that we put the clear piece of
Right,
plastic
with the
on. You
light
write
bulb and it goes
on
like out,
marker and
it's
it'll
like
project
up
on.
and then out. It's
Yeah,
like, mhm.
that's how I started out, and now it's smart boards. I can put my hand on the board and move all the objects I need to,
Yep.
and Google Earth. It's wild to think about the shift, but for the older teachers, there are struggles where it's like I don't know how to use this and I'm frustrated. So I can understand why people may want to retire early because there's this shift with technology. There's shifts with attitudes as well. But I think the biggest change has been just technology in school and how to adapt to that.
So now with
Sorry,
the
I treated that question like it was an interview. I'm sorry.
no, no,
Like,
no,
oh,
that's
I'm not
okay.
applying for the job at Trader Dad's. All right, I'm just
or well, you got the job because you agreed to come on. You're already
Mm.
on. You're in. But well, one of the like tentpole things that I like to highlight is like education. Like it's a major thing that I'm trying to kind of highlight in every different way with this whole bit. I like to try to. I hope that people
What
walk
was
away
what?
with a little bit of a lesson learned when they read one of the things I send out. You know, I'm very much a proponent of a lot of just like continuing education across the board. Because I'll tell you what, I've been on Wall Street a long time. There's some dummies. You know, like if people think they're very smart, but they're really not that much smarter than anything they need to know to accomplish their role. They really don't know much more than that. So, uh, you know,
Just
being
highly specialized, highly trained in that one narrow avenue.
yeah, and some of that's not your average Joe's fault. Some of it is just when you work at, say, a large enterprise, they drill the requirements of the job down to just this tiny little thing, and then they silo you, and then you can't learn other things. So even if you ask, they won't tell you. It's not necessarily their fault. I'm not like blaming them. I've been one of them. I've been a guy who doesn't know what's going on 6 inches left or right of them. So I get it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I get it. What I was saying though is I enjoy hearing about all these kind of teaching stories and anecdotes because you know education is a big part of this. One of the things that I'm noticing, and I am an expert, I have substitute taught 6 or 7 times, is I'm now floating between 13, 14-year olds in school and adults out in the working world. Like I kind of been ping ponging back and forth, and I can see some obvious culture clashes that are likely to emerge. So, for example, all of the kids that I have ever taught walk around with their own laptop. They have their own laptop. The coursework that they are supposed to be doing, particularly when their normal teacher is gone and I am there, they have on a portal. Now, the pro of that, you probably know, you probably have like what, Blackboard or one of the other services that handle that kind of stuff. Is that right?
We use Google. Google Classroom covers
Sure. So it's
everything.
that
It's
idea.
so intuitive. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Do your kids have laptops in their class with them while you're instructing?
they're one to one.
Mhm.
So I could post, here's today's assignment, and using technology for good. I mean, there's always you gotta have that balance of you can't just focus always on technology. However, there are students who can't see the front board. They always have to sit in the front of the room, and I think that's kind of detrimental. It's to a certain point detrimental to that kid because they're always forced to be in a certain spot in classes and be able to interact with other students because so anything I'm going to put on my front board, they have access to on their computer.
Mhm.
So with the kids who forget stuff all the time, the textbook is available on my classroom. If
Mhm.
there's so many options for the student to get the information and to be able to participate in class and work with the other students that they really don't I by having all those options they don't have an excuse to say, oh, I don't have this, or my dog ate this, or X, Y, and Z. They
Got the book.
can't do anything.
Mhm.
It's all there, and by doing that the kids know right away from day one, listen, it's all right here. And if you need to email me, I will answer your emails when I wake up in the morning. I'm not going to
Sure.
answer them after school. So you'll get that email at 5 a.m., but I will respond. And even during the school day, kids have questions. There's that communication that I'm a little older than you, that I didn't have with my teachers. I had to go find a teacher after school. Hopefully they didn't leave for the day. But now there's that open campus idea, which is great because that's really, you think about the work world, it's an open campus. You want to talk to anybody you work with, it's open campus.
Yes, I agree with you. It's interesting how, in some ways, like let's suppose the well, to get us everybody on the same page, I'll frame it this way. Let's imagine you are 22, you're graduating your bachelor's, and you're going to get your first job. You're going to go work at, say, I don't know, a hedge fund or a bank or a trading firm or any sort of financial services firm. You're going to make the transition out of school into the real world, and you are going to get a very fast boot camp lesson in what workplace etiquette is across the board. How to handle email, when is it appropriate to uh, basically escalate a problem to your boss? Like when it's like in school terms, when do you tattle? When do
Right.
say I can't do it? All those things. There's a rough workplace equivalent of it. Kids who are on those laptops now, I feel like are already going to be prepared for what the workplace is like with respect to the tools at their disposal. So I think that's a real positive.
There's a lot of positive to it. There's you know we that simple idea like go outside and play, but they're on their computer. There's those ideas. There still needs to be that social interaction. That's what uh, being in the world of history. There's the sociology side of it that you still have to interact with other people. Interactions are different because now everybody's communicating via the computer or email, text. Um, but there's still that human element that has to occur. So once again, trying to find that balance.
Sure, sure. No, I
In the
agree.
classroom.
I I guess though the interesting part that I'm finding is at heart we're training kids to behave and operate in that function on a laptop, mobile. You have things available all the time. You can do it from anywhere. And the irony is that a lot of places, the culture in workplace, for example, there's a big fight right now between remote work and being in an office. Like people, whether you have to be remote or whatever else, and kids seem to be learning by default now that you can work from anywhere. So eventually, as they get older and move into the system, I find it hard to see there being such a huge clawback to the days of 9 to 5, 40 hours a week in the office every day in your cubicle. Like I just feel like everybody, as more and more kids who did not operate that way growing up move into the workforce, there's no way that's going to come back. You'd be on the wrong side of history. History.
I get it.
You'd be on the wrong side of history to say that it's best to be like in that office environment 40 hours a week, et cetera, et cetera. That's my point. It's interesting to see how they're learning one way of operating and how it's going to, I expect, to invade the workplace over time. That's kind of where I'm driving with that whole thing. That's been the most interesting thing.
That has been I'm actually going along with what you're saying. I've instituted in my class more independent project based it's called PBL, project based learning.
Sure.
The concept being you get to pick your own how you're going to present this information. And my driving force behind that was seeing all my friends going to work from home. They have to be self starters.
Mm-hmm.
So they're given a certain amount of parameters, then they have to produce something. So
Right.
with my students, I mean, you have to guide them a lot more. But I set my parameters and I give them all the tools. What can you make with this? And I've seen the kids, majority, not all, but a majority of the kids really dig into that because they have that independence. They're conferencing with me, telling like, yeah, we're going to do this whatever project, or if I feel it's below their station, like you need to do X, Y, and Z above that. It's the same thing in the workplace. If we're just that managing your own time and creating something without anybody's supervision. I have to lead them to that, but that's like the first steps.
I agree. I get where you're driving at, that independent learning, that independent problem solving. Anything you put independent in front of it, and it's going to be a skill set that can't hurt anyone. I get at the most,
to a certain degree.
Think about it in the most broad way, I think. I mean, is that where you're driving at?
I guess too, yeah. But once again, just like the technology, everything's got to be in balance. So
Sure.
We'll send the kids out to, hey, here's this massive thing. Here's 45 topics you can choose from. Here are 80 different types of projects you can choose from. However you see fit to do this. Cool. We conference, yeah, go through that. Some kids, though, they need to have that concrete. So I'll have to give them the book and the notes. They're
Got it.
both getting the same information, but in a way that works best for them. So,
Makes sense.
there's going to be those people who have to, who will excel at the independent self starter component, and I guess I'm tailoring towards them a little more than those who need to be told, everything they have to do.
Yeah, well, like you said,
It's
there's
getting a
going to
little
be
more
a
philosophical than
balance.
I anticipated. Thanks, Mike.
Wait,
Just
say that
trying to
again.
enjoy
What's
my
that?
evening here and getting it. Just trying to enjoy my evening. Now you're getting me philosophical about teaching. Oh,
Well, that's you know what the only, I didn't force you to. I think you just found a microphone and went with it.
yeah, that's a teacher curse. We talk like I wouldn't say we talk. We just don't shut up. We
Hmm.
just if you go to the faculty room and everybody at lunch, I'm sure it is a cacophony of sounds of teachers just not even listening to each other,
Just talking. I've sat with a few during
just
lunch, and
talking. Yeah,
you realize that it's like, oh, you're a real person. You're not like you're not a robot. You're not a drone. You're not.
there's two things you said. There's two things you said tonight that I take umbrage with. You said when they go out into when you get out of school and you go into the real world. Well, school is still a real place,
That's
and
true.
then you're like, oh, you're a real person. Teachers are real people too, Mike. All right, we're real.
I get it now. I get it now. I've
Ah,
been thinking about um the boot camp that I have gotten by going into a classroom and actually leading discussions. I did a lot during the holidays because a lot of teachers wanted to take off here and there, do their Christmas shopping and whatnot. So there was a lot of openings, and I was picking them up here and there. The most mundane little facts that I picked up about Christmas through those generic kind of substitute lessons, I now like throw that stuff out all the time. Did you know that Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol as a quick way to make a buck?
yeah,
He was a dad who needed to make some extra money because he was going to have another kid. And what he did was he went around and looked at all the best sellers in the London era, like Victorian era London. And he said, people like ghosts, people like it when a bad guy becomes a good guy, and they like Christmas stories. So I'm going to write a Christmas story about a guy who sees a ghost and went from bad to good. He just took all the tropes of the day, shoved them into a book, and it was like a massive success. And that's how he made money. I learned that in
so so A Christmas Carol is the original Hallmark movie.
Yes, you're not even exaggerating. That is actually true. It is just a rubber stamped plot line that was jumping around Victorian England for years, and he just like added to it and just made some money.
Brilliant.
And I just learned that because that's what I had to teach. I taught an English class that day, and we did that whole lesson, and I had to learn that and then teach it
Out
3 minutes
of
later.
out of the 7 days that you went in, what subject have you enjoyed subbing for the most?
Um, that's a good question. So it depends on the age. With middle school, they well, not to go back to the laptop thing, but part of the problem is that they're just given their assignments, and I'm basically a glorified babysitter sometimes. Like I don't actually have to engage because it's all handed to them, which I'll admit was a little bit of a disappointment because I was looking forward to actually like doing various lessons with them. Like not that I was going to be like Robin Williams and they're all going to jump up on their desks at the end. I mean, I
Captain,
wasn't
my
I wasn't
captain. Yeah.
I wasn't that naive, but I did like kind of have in my head the romance of it that I would be able to actually go in and teach something and there'd be like hands in the air ready to answer and all that stuff. And it was a little bit of a disappointment that basically I walk in and I'm just like, all right, you have your assignments on your laptop. See you in an hour and 20. I'm just gonna like hang here and just watch you do it. Unfortunately, that's a little of it. Um, I had the unique opportunity. It was like I to teach my own daughter's class.
Oh, that's great.
which was why. So first of all, that was younger, and that was first grade. So that's a whole different like can of worms, like a 7 year old versus 14 year old.
Oh yeah.
And it was compounded by the fact that it was actually like my kids' class. So the other kids knew that I was her dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a real unique situation. Normally, her class never has any availabilities and stuff because they have a little long-term sub, but it was there. I grabbed it because I was like, I'll never get an opportunity to do this again. I'm gonna jump on it. So I got to teach my daughter a whole Christmas lesson, which was probably my best to date. It was not the
That's
Christmas Carol lesson. It was about they did Christmas around the world that just so happened. It was like Friday, and they were going to do a whole big like event. They're going to do Christmas around the world. So they go to each class, and each class is a different country. So I was handed crib sheet on Christmas in Italy, like a PowerPoint and like some notes, and they're just like, go. You have to
you're
teach
just
Christmas
throwing
in
out
Italy now to a seven
scallops
year
and
old.
shrimp to the kids, and you're just throwing out, different other fishes that you find.
Yes, yes, they do all that. So in Christmas in Italy, it is not Santa Claus. It is the good witch La Befana who comes and delivers presents to all of the kids because she wants to give presents to the new baby Jesus, but does not know which child is the baby Jesus. So she's basically just hedging her bets and throwing presents out to everybody, like
Did you
like
did you
like a hedge fund billionaire
introduce
who gives
these
money
folks?
to every candidate.
Did you introduce these young children to hedging your bets? That term.
I may have used it. Like sometimes your just normal vocabulary will come out.
That's one thing when I got into teaching, I said I was never going to talk down. I was never going to use like kid talk or so when I talk to my students, I talk to them using the vocabulary that I know. And if I learn something new, I'm going to bring that into class. And I found even when I taught second grade and fourth, they appreciate you for that so much. They appreciated me more for doing that than to talk down to them.
I can
So
see that.
I always talked exact like how we're talking here is basically how I talk to my students. Uh,
I get it,
so
and I agree largely. I I guess I have been taking like if I just happen to be out with people and one of them's a teacher, I have started to pick their brains a little bit about how they operate, how they handle things. Because as I go in more and more, every time I go in, kind of come across one of the hundreds of people management parts of teaching, which
it's
I
the
think
big
is
part is
by far the most forget the curriculum. Like, okay, the Revolutionary War was in 1776. Like, cool, but like, what happens when a kid cries?
right.
Like, what do you
There's a
do?
there's the big part of teaching uh, the anticipatory set, understanding, anticipating what is going to occur next, and no matter how many books you read, it's an experience based knowledge. So first time a kid lost a tooth when I was teaching second grade, that's the thing that I can stomach a kid throwing up, a broke.
Mm,
I've seen a bone go through an arm.
mm.
Like I'm not okay the kid having the kid, but nothing happened to me. Like I was like I didn't get queasy or anything. I could handle the situation, but a loose tooth, forget it. I can't handle for whatever reason. I can't handle a loose tooth. So the
Really?
first time that happened, I did not know really what to do. And once you get that experience, okay, here's the steps. You got to go, the nurse, and then they give you a little treasured box and all that. I didn't know, but they
Sure.
had that experience. And I'm using that as an example, but
It's a good
going from
example.
hopping different grades, getting into seventh grade, uh, I've kids are changing in the middle
Puberty.
school
Just use it. I get it.
at
Yeah.
puberty, yes. And as a younger man, I was coaching in the middle school. I was still teaching elementary. I was maybe a few years out of college, and I was coaching girls soccer. And I had never thought about this in my life But I got a letter from a mom that a girl was having her period and she couldn't show up to practice. And I went to the head coach. He's like, what do I do with this? He's like, oh, hey man, welcome. This is middle school. This happens. It's like,
Mm.
I never had that experience before. And now, okay, oh, okay, now this experience, I didn't think about, just little things like that. You just build up over time. And now because kids are exposed to so much more, on with our various social medias, there are new things that I'm learning every day and how
I'm
to
sure you are.
handle. Yeah. So it's in the district that I'm in, there's different cultures that are moving in.
Mhm.
So I'm learning more about the cultures. Or a couple years ago, there's a parent conference where both parents looked off to the side instead of looking at me. I didn't know why. I found it later. Oh, it was a cultural thing. Once again, that experience
Sure.
that I didn't have before. There it is. Okay, now which inspired me to go look into what other cultural things am I going. So it opens the door to a lot of different things. That it's an experience based. Like you can read all the books you want, and you can. This kind of testing does this, and this kind of testing does that. But until you're in the thick of it, like you don't really know. And
I,
what I love about the middle school is that every day is a straight up adventure. I have no idea what's going to happen that day from class to class, from minute to minute. It's chaos, and I kind of live off of that. So,
I
uh,
I've
uh,
been learning that as well. Let me. I mean, I could go on and on about the stories I've already accrued in my short time doing it, because every day for me is the first day. I think that's what's unique. Every
right.
day I go in and it's an entirely different set of rules, entirely different crew of people. So every day I have no idea what to expect. Like suddenly I get put in a classroom and I found out that moment. It was like I showed up at 8:30 and at 8:32 the vice principal stops me and says, "So we're going to put you in the ESL class, which means like the Spanish speaking kids." It's like, "Do you speak Spanish?" No. Okay, well, normally there's a TA who can come in and help with you. I go, "Okay, great," but they're out today. Oh, so I had to just recently do 3 hours with a class full of Spanish speaking kids. I don't speak a lick of Spanish. It made for some great hand signal training. I had to pull out Google.
Donde está la biblioteca? Did I say that right?
Yeah, yeah. It made for an interesting morning trying to just like get through everything. Like, but that's what happened. That's just what happens with it. We dealt with it and we handled it and everybody came out better. I mean, really, it's they who taught me. They taught me that day.
Don't do that. That's a trope. That's a trope.
It's a
Don't do
trope that the
that.
kids are the ones who teach.
Yeah. Oh, they're the ones that made me. No, no. This isn't freedom writers. Anyway, to go along with your story, like never knowing what happens. My very first day of teaching, I graduated college from the prestigious Lock Haven University of Pennsylvania. Go
Now,
Bald Eagles.
did you go to
Anyway,
real quick though? Did you go to school with the ambition to become a teacher?
I did. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a national park ranger, and then the high school had a program
Then what? The parks
that
burned down. Global warming.
no, the program was teach a foreign language to an elementary class. And
Okay.
as a senior, I was like, it gets me out of the high school and I can go over and do this little German lesson with the kids.
Okay.
And so several classes came together. So I had like 60 third graders in front of me. And I taught this lesson. They could say, hello, my name is, how are you? And they could count to 10. And that was in 45 minutes with all these kids. If they all got, I don't know, but at the time I was like, yeah, they all got it. And that everything switched right there. I went from park ranger to I want to be a teacher. So I went to college knowing I wanted to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my very first day of teaching, I was a you call it a TA. an aide, a paraprofessional, whatever
Whatever.
term they
Yeah.
use.
The
So
second one in the room.
I was in the elementary, and the principal comes up to me and says, "We need someone to sub in second grade today, and possibly for longer." This was like 5 minutes before these kids show up. I was like, "All right." So I go in there. I have no plans. There's no nothing, and I have 30 second graders about to come in. The other teachers, they're just handing me some, do these worksheets. We'll get you more stuff. I'm like, okay. I make it through the morning. At lunch, I'm just coming up with what I'm going to do in the afternoon. I get through the afternoon. The principal comes back and says, tonight's meet the teacher night. Would you be able to stay and talk about second grade? I like, sure. Yeah. So, after college, it's a little living my home. So I call my folks. I'm like, can you bring me dinner? I'm staying here. Apparently I'm doing meet the teacher night. My very first day. No, I go through I study their curriculum. I study the school, all the things that I have to, like, what kind of questions they're going to ask. My first session, the superintendent is sitting in the back of the room, fresh out of college. There's all these parents who are upset because the teacher's not there, and I'm getting through it. And then a second session, the principal's in there, and these, like, I get to this whole thing. I get home by like 10 o'clock. I'm exhausted, fall asleep, and in my dream, this is all part of the first day. All right, so my dream, I feel like I'm on one of those high dives. You would see it like the Jersey Pier, where you like jump off like the 80-foot high dive into the water. So I
Yep.
feel like I'm on that. And by the way, what's important to the story is my alarm is set for 6 a.m. So in my dream, on this high dive, I jump off the high dive. Right as I'm about to hit the water, there's a great white shark. It jumps out and gets me. That's when my entire body tenses up, and I punch myself in the eye in real life
This story
because
goes.
of all the stress I had the day
Okay.
before. This turned, yeah. I punch myself in the eye. I wake up. I look at my alarm clock, 5:58. I go to school my second day of teaching second grade with a black eye. That's how I start my teaching career. So I figured if I can get through that first day, like, there's nothing anybody's going to bring me. That was like a 23-year-old Pete who was thrown into the fire and came out with just a black eye. So
That's the best way to do it because you've
yeah.
already like your entire career is now has like adrenaline behind it. Like you're already like you've hit the ground running. You're just doing it. That's the best way. I like that story. That's
So
a
that's
fine way
the
to roll.
experience. Yeah. So teaching, yeah, that's what I do, man.
Well, God bless you. You are,
Oh,
yeah.
thanks.
I've learned. I can't. I have a couple friends of mine. One works on Wall Street as a trader. The other is his wife. She is a middle school teacher, and I saw them over the holidays. And I said to them, I can honestly say now I've done both of your jobs, like with honest effort. Like I did basically both of your jobs. And I looked at my buddy square in the eye and I go, you better rub her goddamn feet every night because the teaching job is felt so much harder and you're more on constantly all day than like sitting and watching screens and seeing the numbers flicker all day, watching the charts flow and like just placing buy sell orders. Like there's some occasional moments of like craziness for sure, but just like the grind and of the day is much different. And like I was taken aback by how like this is work. You know what I mean? Like this is like work, both mental and physical. You're
Yeah.
standing, you're walking, you're talking all day, but then you're also thinking all day. Like it's work.
And then could you understand why we have like maybe an extended time in the summer where we're just away from it?
Well,
Ah, there it is.
I mean, I guess I understand the argument, but let me come at you from now. Forget the. Let me come at you from the
I'm
dad
actually
side of
I'm
it.
actually one of the few teachers that you will talk to that thinks school should be year round. School, the way that school is set up in the United States is based on an agrarian society. You needed the kids, you need your family to be working on a farm. So when's the best time to work on a farm? In the summer.
Yeah,
We don't need that anymore. We have
no,
machines. We have, a workforce. We have, automated, X, Y, and Z. We have all those things. I'm a huge proponent of year-round school. Does that mean go to school every single day? No. That there's countries on the planet that are having a longer period of school, which could benefit our society in the end.
I
I am happy that there's time off, but that time off really isn't, because I'm taking grad classes. I'm going back for different in services. I'm still updating everything. So when people think, oh, you have the summers off, it's not. People, even when I say it, people won't believe it.
Mhm. I,
But there's still things that are happening that to get those wheels in motion. And now our we have an economy based on summertime travel. You have Florida. Would Florida's economy take a huge hit if it went year-round school? Yeah, but it's we're kind of stuck. The system that we're in, we're kind of stuck.
yeah, yeah. I think if you break it down from the educational side of it, I agree with you that like there's really not a reason for them to just like stop for 2 months, 2.5 months. From the other issue is more from like the dad side. Like working parents suddenly have to find something to do with these kids for 2.5 months, because I think what everybody learned or what everybody was reminded of during COVID when everybody was at home is that a school is not just a place to learn, it's also a place to put your child.
That was the brief moment in time when teachers were the real heroes. That brief shining moment where we were like, oh, they would put the signs out. You guys are the heroes, teachers. And then it all just went to crap.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it so surprising though that people have short memories?
Yeah, it's not. It's a bummer.
Well, what we've
But
established here today is that teaching is hard, and I have gotten a newfound respect for all of it, and I've actually become more and more interested in knowing like the finer points of it. You know what I mean? Just figuring out like tactics, like just dumb things like controlling the room and just creating engagement and stuff like that. Because a lot of that stuff, like I know if you do through a PhD program, for example, you're required to teach that subject matter because you can't know it unless you've taught it. Like that's the rough philosophy of it. And I get
yeah,
it. I agree with it. It's no big deal. I think that there like you should that idea should be taken to a lot of other avenues. Like I've been thinking a lot more about like my career for managing, because like without getting into too much detail, there's basically like with most things, it's like if you're at a big organization, you kind of be like an operator where you're the one doing the projects, and then you get to be like at a certain level, you're more like managing and overseeing, right? Like that's you have that in most industries, if not anything. Like if you go from being in the military, it's also like you're an enlisted man, and then you get like honorably discharged and you become an officer. It's the same sort of deal to some extent. Like to become a vice president in like a major bank or hedge fund or mutual fund or whatever is considered prestigious because it requires a certain amount of like proof that you're like you can manage the situation. You know what I mean? Not just push the buttons, but manage the situation. I like I was not at that level. I was on the trajectory to be at that level over time, though. After having taught, this is where I'm going with this, having dealt with people on the fly, having that feet to the fire vibe, I actually do feel like I'm much more qualified and ready to like manage now.
that's just after seven times of being in school.
Well, also, there's a whole 10 plus year career of doing the
Right.
work. There's other factors. I'm not saying it's the sole reason. Like
The,
like I
the
didn't teach
magic, the magic of teaching.
I didn't teach Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol for 45 minutes and then decide I'm going to challenge Jamie Dimon for the title of CEO at JP Morgan Chase. Like there's
That
a
would be that would be a great underdog story right there.
he came out of nowhere.
No one expected him. 45 minutes and Charles Dickens. He went for it.
I went for it. I saw an opening and I took it. Um, my point is simply that teaching does a lot for showing one how to manage a group of people. And I do feel that one of the takeaways I'm getting is more confidence that I could take on a managerial position and say another role. So I believe that people who are in other roles really should have to like be plucked out of it and do like their time as like teaching or managing something very, very, very close to their close to very microcosm of management.
That's the plot of the movie Doctors.
Which movie?
No, my the Doctors. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the movie. I think it's William Hurt, and he's a doctor. He doesn't have any bedside manner, and then he gets cancer. He has to go to the treatment, and all these doctors have no bedside manner, and he gets to experience it from the other side. And when he
Oh,
comes
okay.
back, he changes his whole entire. It's basically a Christmas Carol, but for doctors.
Hmm. So maybe that 45 minutes will
Yeah.
come in handy. All
See,
right.
that's what you call a callback. There you go.
There you go. There you go. We're not above cheap comedy in this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but I think we've established that we're both. This is
We
starting to just turn into patting ourselves on the back for all the good things
Yeah,
we do.
you're patting yourself on the back, man. I got to go back into work tomorrow. Are you kidding?
I mean I just started and host my own podcast. That's pretty much the definition of patting myself on the back all day.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it because it had to be done. That's why.
Right. Excellent.
Let me turn to a different thought though. So you're in a Grateful Dead cover band.
Yes.
So now
That's the whole part of that interview. Okay, let's move on. No.
it's like
It,
and now for something completely different.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm in a Grateful Dead tribute band. There's six of us. There's two guitars, bass, keys, drums, and percussion. For those deadheads out there, I'm the Bobby in the band. We have a Jerry, and uh, it's a pretty good time. Like I said, coming from the cover world, we are playing Bruno Mars and uh, like just dance songs, Earth, Wind, and Fire, things like that. It's cool getting people up and dancing. Um, but with this dead world, it is a lot more improv and like every night I don't know what I'm going to get with even within my group. So that kind of ties back to the whole entire teaching middle school. I don't know what I'm going to get. So we have practice songs. We know the songs.
Mm-hmm.
When we get on stage, it might take a left hand turn. We just roll with it, and it keeps me on my toes. It's actually made me a better guitar player, a better listener to the music.
Did you come at like something like that as a business? Because I've had like some film guys on before, and we've talked a lot about like the business of film. So when you talk about like the business of a band, like did you come at this like expecting like I'm gonna make some extra money on weekends? Like were you like DJing a wedding? Like oh Saturday night I gotta do this thing like so I can make money. It's like my side job or is it my passion? That's my question.
With it's with the top four. I had my own band for about 14, 15 years that I fronted, and it started out just fun playing bars, small. We started to grow and to be playing larger events, and then it changed from just being this fun thing to more of a business
Mm-hmm.
thing that I didn't expect. I was like, okay, this is a new avenue. So having that extra money was great. It was a nice second source of income.
Mm-hmm.
Not one that was going to sustain me, but I I could use all the guitar money to feed my hobbies or any of the fun things I want to do. I say I from the shows I played from one year, I ended up taking a cross country trip. Nothing came out of any of my savings, and nothing from any. There, it was all me playing guitar, doing something that I love doing, something fun. All that went to this trip. I got to see America. I got to climb Devil's Tower, Wyoming. I got to see the country,
That's great.
and that all came from the guitar. So that became a grind where instead of saying, "Hey, we're gonna have fun at this gig," it's like, I got this job on Saturday. So it changed over that way. I took a year off. There was an advertisement on Craigslist for a Grateful Dead thing, and I'm approaching this from just its enjoyment. The guys who are in it, great group of guys. They are in it for enjoyment too. They're deadheads from various years, and it's so much like I feel as though a weight has been lifted off because we don't have these expectations that we have to play these many shows and this, charge this. We're just having a great time. And, apparently we're doing okay because people are driving to see us and see us show after show.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of a big deal. When you see the same faces traveling,
So
from down to
there,
Philly up to the Lehigh Valley.
you have deadhead groupies following you around.
Yeah, like it's like a second to third tier deadhead groupies or just deadheads following us around. I think that's kind of what the community does. They find a band that they enjoy and they just follow them.
Hmm.
Every show we play, we give a different set, we give a different vibe, to a certain degree. So it's so enjoyable. My girlfriend has said, like, she's she's seen that, like, I've like my love of music has been rekindled by
Okay.
doing this. I hadn't after I broke up with my last band, I didn't play for months. I was just like I didn't really want to. It wasn't enjoyable, and then
Sounds like
slowly
it's like
came
a
back, and now it's just
bad
a
breakup or a
real.
divorce.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Yeah,
I'm still friendly with a couple of the guys. We just got together with the old band. We played a Christmas thing, and it was fun playing with them again. Um, but there was no expectations. We don't have to be playing all these huge. We just have fun, and that's what this Grateful Dead thing is. And because of that attitude, we're actually playing cool places, and we're just happy with whatever comes our way. So
that's great. I
it's
love
it's
the
it's a lot
stories
of fun.
because it just makes it enjoyable. It's a win-win all around. Very little downside, I guess. One of the things you
Yeah, I
said
mean,
though that you use you're doing something you like doing, you're doing something you're interested in doing, and you make that money, and then you can put it towards like fun stuff. I
yes,
think
which is
that which
basically either travel or I just buy more guitars.
either way, either way. But
So
I
I
did
have I have
similar.
a stupid collection of guitars.
Nothing wrong with that, my friend.
Yeah.
I did similar when I was in college. You could trade what was called retail FX at the time, which is like currency
Okay.
trading. Um, this was like before crypto existed. This is what college kids would trade. Um, but I had a few bucks in it, and I made a couple more bucks, and ended up I was able to pay for 2 trips to Europe. Like I covered the airfare and all the expenses and whatnot. And I got to go. I went to Ireland twice, and that's how I was able to do it because I was like, oh, cool. Like I managed to make a couple bucks doing this, and I can go do something, which was great because I just enjoyed doing it because I'm a big nerd about like that stuff. Um,
If you enjoy it, like if your hobby can pay for your hobby, that's great. That's what like it's like what the Jay Leno idea. He any money, well, even Marshawn Lynch does the same or did the same thing. And I'm pretty sure Tommy talked about Marshawn Lynch in his
well, we
as
had a big
well.
argument about
They should have ran. They should have
yes,
ran.
we had a big argument. That's
That's
exactly right. We were talking about thinking in bets, and whether it was a
mm.
smart like idea, like whether it was a good move to like run or pass. And we
It was
actually,
a poorly called play. Even if it was a pass, it was a poorly called play for pass. Like a 3 yard, and you're only getting to the goal line, like in a crap. Anyway, but the idea of Jay Leno and Marshawn Lynch,
mhm,
they don't take any of their money they earned from the television show or the NFL to do anything with. They did it all with their Jay Leno with his outside comedy.
right.
Any money he made there, he would buy his cars and do all this stuff with. And Marshawn, all the advertising he did paid for all his fun stuff. But his NFL money, that's stored away. So that's one of the benefits when I was in the top 40 or the dance band, whatever. It was doing pretty well, but
Mhm.
as the music part and the enjoyment is like, no, it's got to go. So there was an extra tax, and that tax was on me.
That's a shame. But I see where you're going with it. I know what you're saying. I basically agree with you. If you can get the benefits out of it, it's wring it out of whatever you're doing. That's even better. So it's not Not bad. Like, everybody should have like their side gig, their side hustle, their side thing to, if nothing else, to balance themselves. And it should usually be something that's like the opposite of what you're doing, like your 9 to 5. You know, like if
Right.
you're very like number crunching. I will say this, and it's actually the question I want to ask you. It does annoy me when I hear about like the accountant, like the CPA, who like walks around saying like, "Well, I'm a bass player, and then I do some accounting on the side." It's like, no, you're not. You're a CPA, dude. Like you make your 180 grand or whatever. That's how you make your money. And then once a month, you sit for 2 hours in your basement, have a cocktail, and play Layla. Like that's what you do. So that being said, though, God bless him. He sits and plays the bass for 2 hours a day and plays Layla. I wish I could do the same. My question to you is: do you think yourself a teacher who plays music or a musician who teaches?
I'm a teacher first. I had the opportunity out of high school to either go into college and start the pursuit of teaching, or to go pursue music, and that would have been on the road. And I was like, "There's as fun, as exciting as that opportunity would have been. The logical part of me was like, I don't know, I don't think I have enough in me to go and want to pursue the music avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a teacher first, and that has benefited me in so many avenues. And then I get to have this fun thing on the side where I get to, play. And when I taught, I keep on saying, like you don't know, I'm just talking to you. But when I was in elementary, I would sing with the kids, and that was great. The kids dug it. We'd do the national anthem. There was a school song. I ended up writing. This drives me nuts, but it's also kind of ironic, or I don't know. I don't know if irony is the right word. My most popular song that I've ever written is the song for the elementary school, because every month, every kid in that elementary school gets together and sings that song at an assembly. So there have been thousands of kids who have sung that song in the elementary. And when they get to me, I play it and like, how do you know that song? I'm like, I wrote that song, and it
Oh,
blows their
great.
mind. But yeah,
You know what's
so
going to
it's
happen? You're
so
gonna be at you're gonna be there to play music one night at a bar, and your first round of elementary school kids who are over 21 are gonna start requesting you play that song out at the bar.
yeah, they're getting close to 30s now. So it is
Okay.
weird. It is weird for me to see former students out in public. Really, like I've looked exactly like this since day one, bald beard. That's what I got. Um,
Pretty much all he's
and
bringing to the table. Got it. All right.
they recognize me.
Mhm.
I I've taught thousands of kids. I have no idea. Like, oh hey, I had you as a fourth grade teacher. I'm like,
Yeah, right, right.
I'm just buying underwear in Walmart, man. Like,
Yeah.
can I just buy my underwear and leave? Like, don't rehash things with me. So,
At least you don't
it's definitely weird. What?
have you ever had like a negative encounter? Like, has anyone ever come up to you and been like, "What the fuck, you failed me, and that now I'm doing drugs," and like, have you ever had somebody come up to you and be like, "I hated
No,
you. Why did you hate me?"
no, not after. Uh, I haven't had any of those negative. There's a couple former students who've reached out on social media, and that just weirds me out. Um,
Yeah.
I I'll be, hey, thanks for, like it's very professional. Hey, I'm so glad that you're doing well in your life, and I wish you continued success in whatever you're doing. Just very boilerplate kind of.
Sure.
But it does weird me out. I have teacher friends who have remained friends with students that they really enjoyed, and it doesn't seem to me that's not my thing. I have my friends. I don't need to. My job was to teach. My job is not to be a friend of a kid.
Right.
I will empathize. I will help you through tough times, but I'm
Mhm.
not your friend. I am still a teacher. You're still a student.
Right.
And once they're out, once they're done, like if it's I'm
you're good. Like
good. I don't
yeah.
ever need to. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm
it's like
sure in
that's
my
how
life, like, good.
I was gonna say that's how people are in like, like employee relationships, coworker relationships in some way. It's like I could talk to you, I could see you every day for 10 years, but the day after you quit, you're like, you're gone. Never to see you again.
Yeah, that's it's kind of it's kind of like, even back to the whole teaching world. When people retire, they leave, and it's almost like they're never heard from again because everybody's in teaching. You're so, from your 7 days, you're just so wrapped up in your day to day. You're not thinking about.
Look, I get it. I only did, I'm listening to my 7 days. Like, you're poo-pooing me like I'm such an asshole. Look, I am an asshole, but that's a different discussion. I mean,
Sorry, I totally got ramped up, pulled my earpiece out.
that's all right. That's all right. I'm just like,
But
all right, give me a break. At least I'm trying.
you're doing it, and that's, I commend you. It's a lot of people won't even make it through a day. That was the average in the United States for longevity of a teacher is a year and a half. So it's pretty remarkable.
Wow.
You've just got another year and a half to go.
Sure.
Be above
With the way
be above average.
with the way the economy is going, that might be the way forward.
Right.
We're we're gonna see, but we're we're coming up on about an hour. And Pete, this
I
is
hopefully I didn't bore your audience with these teacher stories. I mean,
no.
a lot of people, because they went, obviously, gone through school, be it public or private, have an idea of, oh, this is what school is. And it's not until you're on the other side where it's like, oh, this is how the sausage is made. I did not know that. So everybody has had their negative teacher experience. And unfortunately, those are the ones you remember. You remember the devil doink. You don't remember the one he made earlier in the game. You remember the terrible parts, or back to the Marshawn Lynch, have him run. No, they throw the pass. You remember that. You remember the terrible teachers. You have to think a little bit more about the good teachers you had. But because
I think
everybody's gone through school, there's an idea you're an expert at it. Until you actually do it, it's a whole nother world.
well, I do agree 100% with that. And I also think you will be surprised at the people who listen to this who would be interested. We got some teachers on the podcast. We got some Pennsylvania people who listen. We got a pretty decent cross section. So I think you'd be surprised.
All
But
right.
I do like to have you back here again, maybe in a couple months, maybe during summer break or something. I'll have a couple more days under my belt, so I'll be even more of an expert by then.
That'd be awesome. We can
Yeah.
share some ridiculous stories. I
And
have a
I am serious. We do have some I'm like a Lehigh guy, right? So I do have a fairly big Pennsylvania population on here. So why don't you let everybody know your band name and some of the places you they might find you, so
oh
maybe
wow.
they're gonna
This is
check you
this is
out.
the promo part.
Yeah.
The band. Okay, I'll do this. The band is called Bloom and Decay. It's part of a Grateful Dead lyric in the song "Eyes of the World." So Bloom and Decay, and we're just on Facebook. We realize you don't need to have a full website and regalia. We got a YouTube, a Facebook, and I think January 27th we're in Phoenixville. This joint called the Rivet. Um,
Okay.
pretty hip joint, and it's gonna be the full band getting at it. So
What you can do is when this drops, there'll be I always have sections of like add-ins and info about what we talk about. So if you want
right
to
on.
drop some tour dates for the area, I'm
Tour
serious. There
dates.
will be people who will read it.
It's the 2 a month tour.
You know what? My demographic has kids. It's tough to get a sitter. They will
I
plan
get it.
6 weeks in advance, and that one a month is what they're
Right.
looking for. So you'd be
We
surprised.
did a show. We did a show just recently. We called it Live from Your Living Room, and we went Facebook Live right before the holiday, Christmas and on. We just played a whole show, so people could be sitting at their home drinking eggnog or whatever it is deadheads do. I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm sure we can all figure it out. But live from the living room. So yeah,
Great.
stay at home
Hey,
with your
here you
kids,
go.
dance around the living room. It's great.
But
Yeah.
all right, Pete, I do appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And I will just
Hey,
add.
thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah, no, great. And what was that? I hope you come back one time. This
It's
was
been
a
fun.
great discussion. I really love bolstering the education piece of this whole thing up there.
Right.
Last things, everybody, you know the drill, you can like and subscribe. I will be showing a new link soon for the Trader Dad store. We're gonna have some swag, some t-shirts, some other stuff you keep around the trading desk. I think people are going to enjoy it. I finally got patches for everybody who wants one. I've heard a few people asking about like adding patches to jackets and stuff. So there's going to be patches on the new store site that'll be dropping soon. Pete, what's your dog's name again?
His name is Hefeweizen von Poopen. Heffy for short.
Effie for short. Okay,
He was
great.
he was just laying down, taking in half of all this information.
That's all right. We got Trader Dog Gus sitting here over here. My Shih Tzu. He's usually hanging out with me while I'm doing these, so he's the same way. So
Right on.
we're dog friendly here on the podcast. But again, everybody, all right. Thanks for listening. We will see you next month. Next month, February. Expiration Friday is going to be on the 16th. We got another small business owner coming. And then I am aiming to get maybe a influencer or subscriber here later in the year. So that should be good. But all right, everybody.